Recording in progress.
Good evening and welcome to this council meeting. A particularly warm welcome to all of the councillors who are joining us in person and online. Before we begin, I acknowledge that we are meeting here on Camaragal land, and I acknowledge the traditional owners of those lands, the Camaragal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, with gratitude for their careful custodianship of these lands, waters and skies. We've had an application from Councillor Santa to attend remotely. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Holding, seconded by Councillor Antonini. All those in favour? And that is carried. A warm formal welcome to you, Councillor Santa. Are there any disclosures of interest for items on the agenda? No. This meeting is being recorded.
Right. I'm the chair of the City Coastal Council Group, and there's an item, but it's non-significant and non-pecuniary, and I won't be leaving the meeting, and I'll be voting.
Thank you, Councillor.
And apologies.
This meeting is being recorded and made publicly available on Council's website. Those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements. By attending the meeting, you are giving consent to your image and voice being webcast. A reminder, under the Code of Meeting Practice, councillors, council staff and members of the public must ensure that mobile phones are turned to silent during meetings of council. Councillors who need to use their phone to text, talk or engage in social media activity must leave the chamber to do so. That brings us to confirmation of the minutes. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Holding. Any discussion? I put the minutes. All those in favour? And that is carried. Councillors, we've had registered speakers on 3 items on the agenda. The first is 10.2 community transport. The second is 10.4 Young Street Plaza upgrade. And the third is 11.2 notice of motion save Milsons Point Post Office. Councillor Berrigie.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that we open the public forum for items 10.2 community transport comparative council's report, 10.4 Young Street Plaza upgrade tender, and 11.2 notice of motion 19/25, so that we can hear from the speakers before we enter debate.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Holding. I'll put the procedural motion. All those in favour? And that is carried. So that now brings us to the brought forward items. The first is item 10.2, community transport. If the registered speaker is Davey McDonald, if you would please come forward.
Hi, David McDonald, resident of Haybury Street, and I wanted to come here particularly. I just want to position myself here. I attended the Royal Commission into the abuse and discrimination of people with a disability, so I'm quite passionate about this issue with our buses. And I think the first thing I want to make clear to you is when I read in the report that aged care was referred to as an industry, that may be for certain people an industry, but I think it's really important about mindsets here. It's a profession, and people that give that service are very often, they see it as a vocation. And again, there was a terminology used in here, which was sustainability. And I think it would be fair, though controversial, to say sustainability in the context of this report is one that really means, in my language, austerity or cost cutting. And that's how I see it. Thank you. The first thing is the heading of this is a comparative council's report. And I think that's misleading, because what I have to give you here and say, in many ways, we're coming at this in the wrong way. Here is an example of the population densities of the 4 councils. This is North Sydney, that's Lane Cove, that's Mossman, and that's Willoughby. We are much higher density of population, so that's not reflected in this report, I say. Also, what's important is to note the age range of people. Again, North Sydney, sorry, Mayor, you can't see, North Sydney, Lane Cove, Mossman and Willoughby. So our reasons for having a service must be greater than those of Mossman, arguably, and Lane Cove. And I think that's really important. I also am disappointed with this report. There's a lot of work gone into the 12 pages I have, but you have over 24 pages of a document that is not, we're not afforded to look at. And I'll come to that in a moment. But what I feel is missing from this is any form of SWOT analysis. There's been no report coming through of saying what we have been providing, what the cost of that in relation to that service, and what the impact will be on what we are providing currently, what the reduction may possibly be from any change. That's not represented here, and I think it's a serious miss, but it may be in your document. So I think it's important to remember that the service is for people who are encouraged to live at home, housebound effectively, peoples with disabilities, intellectual disabilities, essentially people over 65 that go for medical appointments, etc., etc. You know the drill. When I had another concern was, and this will surprise nobody.
Your time has expired.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
25 seconds.
Okay.
So finish your thought.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, come to the last point 8. I mean, I've identified there all the recommendations to you, which I have answers to, which I think challenge that. I also want to just briefly thank you, Mayor, for giving me this indulgence, that this is the Minister of Local Government. He is very keen that there should be a reduction, I'll put it in that way, of having briefings to council where it's not notified to the public, open to the public. And then he just says this: it is the duty of all councils to work together to provide outcomes that lead to better lives for the communities they are elected to serve, in context of what I just said. Thank you.
Are there any questions of the speaker? Councillor Keane.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could you mind just holding up the two? You had the the density? Yes, please. So the density, bottom left is North Sydney, bottom right
Yeah.
was,
So that's Willoughby in both cases. You'll see North Sydney is 3 times the size of Lane Cove, for example.
and then can you just read out for us the age ranges on that?
This one here, the bottom line is 65 to 69, 70 to 74, 75 to 79, and 80 to 84, and that's represented there. It's not my memory, I wrote it on the back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the speaker? Thank you for your participation.
Oh, your turn.
Councillors, is there a mover? Councillor Berricky.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move the recommendation.
Is there a seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Holding. Councillor Berricky.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just speak briefly. There has been a lot of work that's gone into this, and it has been in consultation with every interested party and every stakeholder. A change is always difficult. However, I think we've reached an agreement here where council will continue to support through the grant-based funding model for community transport, and the provider is happy with the report as well, so I'm happy to support that.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? No other speakers? Then I'll put the item. Oh, sorry, Councillor Santa.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank the staff for their comprehensive report. It was excellent reading. I'm a firm believer that there's no such thing as a free lunch. Every service we provide comes at a cost, and I'm afraid the community must accept the inevitable consequence of IPART's decision to allow this council no increase in rates beyond the rise in the Consumer Price Index, notwithstanding the historic increases in costs Australia is experiencing, is that Council has to reduce the services we provide to the community, even in those areas which we all agree are necessary for the community's well-being. So cutbacks are inevitable, although undesirable, a consequence of IPART's decision. The report notes that this council program was established prior to the Commonwealth Government's Home Support Program, CHSP, which mirrors aspects of our community transport program. This, alongside state government support, renders our program somewhat redundant and unnecessary. Realisation of such a doubling up has perhaps not been lost on our neighbouring council, which have not been as forthcoming as have we in their community transport support. This council report, which we see tonight, also points out that for the transport equipment which council currently provides under this program, there is a substantial cost to council, which otherwise would be borne by the Commonwealth under their CHSP, and for which council receives no CHSP financial support from the Commonwealth. We currently pay more than $260,000 for this service, compared with our neighbouring councils who only pay around $5,000. I also note with satisfaction that the recommendations in the report come after consultation with Community Connect Transport, CCT. For these reasons, I support the motion as it ensures that there is no net loss in the delivery of the transport services which this section of our community both needs and deserves.
Thank you, Councillor Santa. Are there any other speakers? Before I put the motion, I'm going to briefly speak. Councillors, as a result of the financial position that we're in and the decision by IPART, as Councillor Santa said, this is a very difficult year. We're having to examine every service and every option that we can in order to make certain that we're as efficient as we can be before we go potentially back to IPART and ask for funds that will result in a much stronger financial position for council. But that said, this council hasn't reviewed the contract for the community transport for decades, and the world has changed, not least that the Commonwealth now supports much community transport, but that whether or not it's the most effective use of council's support for community organisations and individuals to have 3 buses and 260,000 in cash as the support. So I think that this is a reasonable compromise where council will make some savings, but not at the cost of the important services that the people in Greenway, that those who rely on the bus to go to the Crow's Nest Centre lunches, all of that will continue to be supported by council. And extraordinarily, the transition arrangements are acknowledged and supported by Community Connect Transport. So for those reasons, I will be supporting the motion. And so there were no other speakers. I'll put the motion. All those in favour and those against, and that is carried. That now brings us to the next brought forward item, and that is 10.4, the Young Street Plaza upgrade. There is one registered speaker, Meredith Trevelyan-Jones. Give your name.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. My name is Meredith Trevelyan-Jones. I'm a resident of Cremorne. I'm here today in support of the recommendation and ask you all to vote for it. Last Monday, 2 blocks north of Young Street Plaza, I came upon the aftermath of a collision between a cyclist and a 4-wheel drive. There were 2 ambulances in attendance and 4 paramedics working to stabilise the cyclist. This is not what we want to see on our local streets. It reminded me of a key concern of local residents regarding this project, pedestrian safety. It was Transport for New South Wales' idea to close Young Street to improve traffic flow on Military Road. Residents to the north were annoyed. They could no longer whip into Young Street to get to the Grosvenor Lane car park. But residents to the south were pleased that after crossing Military Road, they could now safely cross Young Street and not worry about being hit by a car whipping around the corner from Military Road. I recall a neutral precinct office bearer, I hasten to add Councillor Carr, saying anyone who was against the closure must have rocks in their head. Local MP Tim James told me his opposition to reopening Young Street was due to concerns about pedestrian safety. But with the closure of Young Street, drivers started turning off Military Road at the intersection before and driving down Grosvenor Lane as a shortcut to the Grosvenor Lane car park. They ignored the fact that Grosvenor Lane was a pedestrian shared zone with a 10km/h speed limit. I heard numerous stories of near misses. Through you, Mayor, if I could ask the CEO to pass on a big thank you to council officers who conducted the community consultation and responded to suggestions on this issue by reinforcing the left turn only design at the end of Grosvenor Lane shared zone. This will encourage drivers not to use the shared zone as a shortcut to the car park. Whilst you can't please all of the people all the time, this proposal is pretty good. It addresses Grosvenor Lane pedestrian safety whilst maintaining safety for pedestrians coming from the south. Tim James has told me he has no problem with the revised design. The lane allowing access to Military Road will please some local residents. It also addresses concerns about access for emergency vehicles and the concern of a local business about access for a truck to empty a grease arrestor. Again, Mayor, if I could through you and the CEO, say thank you to all those involved in negotiating this outcome with Transport for New South Wales. In the 1960s, the council's vision and actions in creating the Grosvenor Lane car park were central to the commercial success of Neutral Bay Village. However, 60 years on, 2/3 of the visitors to Neutral Bay Village come by foot or on bicycle. This project, together with the foreshadowed creation of a pedestrian plaza in place of the Grosvenor Lane car park, represent a new vision which prioritises pedestrians and cyclists and will contribute to the renewal and revitalisation of Neutral Bay Village. I look forward to being able to answer residents' questions about what's happening with Young Street, with the answer that work is about to get underway and it's funded by the state government. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions of the speaker? Thank you very much for your participation. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Beregi, seconded by Councillor Welsh. Do you wish to speak to the item?
No, Mayor, I'll save my right of reply if needed.
Are there any speakers? Councillor,
Can I move an amendment, please?
well, you
Madam Mayor?
can move an amendment
I
on
will.
the side if it is an amendment or a foreshadowed motion.
That we add an item 4, that council write to Transport for New South Wales for a no left turn on Military Road between the time of 3 till 7 p.m.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Carr. You can speak to your motion, to your amendment.
I am not supportive of reopening Young Street, but on the basis that this recommendation is in front of us, I am very concerned about the safety of turning left onto Military Road with the beeline traffic coming down in peak hour. If councillors would consider a no left turn between 3 and 7, I think this would greatly increase the safety of the pace of the beelines as they come down in peak hour traffic.
Thank you. Turn off your microphone. I'm just going to speak briefly against that. This plan has been revised over and over again with Transport. In fact, the biggest hurdle was getting Transport for New South Wales to agree that they are confident as traffic engineering advice that what is proposed is appropriate. I certainly do not have traffic engineering expertise, and in the absence of that advice from council staff or Transport for New South Wales, in circumstances where they have thoroughly examined and now support this plan, I think it would be reckless of the council to once again go back to ad hoc traffic decisions on the floor of this chamber. Is there another speaker to the amendment? I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? And those against? And that is lost. That takes us back to the motion. Anyone wishes to speak to the motion? Councillor Keane.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I will reiterate that I do not support this recommendation. I spent a lot of time in Neutral Bay, on foot in Military Road, and I'm very concerned about the safety of pedestrians if this actually goes ahead and is reopened up. So I'm just saying, councillors, we do spend a lot of time on foot in this area, and I certainly know that I do have some very concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Kane. Councillor Holding.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to speak briefly. Obviously, the speaker tonight, Mr. Llewellyn-Jones, spoke very eloquently about it. My experience, certainly through the precinct system or the local precincts that I've attended recently, whether that's Bay, Willoughby Bay, Brightmoor, etc., have all been, the big question has been, when is Young Street opening? And it's great that we're able to get this delivered. Obviously, it was closed in 2020, and now here we are in 2025. What's there currently at the moment is decaying, and the sooner we can get rid of it and get this plan, which has been on the pages for some time, and in fact, we had a briefing on it quite some time ago, probably 3-4 weeks ago, maybe even longer. I think it's a great initiative. It reopens the space and it allows traffic thoroughfare in a safe manner for pedestrians. And certainly my input that I've had from the community has been they're very supportive of this being reopened as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? In which case I'll put the item. All those in favour? And those against? And that is carried. Mr. McDonald, I have you listed to speak to the motion 11.2 on the Milsons Point Post Office, but I understand you no longer wish to do so.
Yeah, the people aren't here, and it's about the community post office, which you guys are aware of.
Thank you.
So I thought.
I know you were left off last time. I just wanted to make sense.
It's fine.
Thank you.
You already know what I was wanting to bring, and that's all I wanted to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, that then takes us back to the rest of the agenda. Is there it's a pretty short agenda. Are we going to have a procedural motion or will
Madam
we?
Mayor, I think given we have to nominate a councillor and then it's a motion, I'm just happy to move 10.1.
Is there a seconder for 10.1? Seconded by councillor Antonini. Well, but we're not moving on Globo, we're just moving the item. So councillor Keane, but first perhaps councillor Berrigan, having moved the motion, will speak to it. If you could turn off your microphone, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank the council staff for the report, and I appreciate what's being said. We have a financial situation where money is tight, and at this point in time, I understand that we are now going into daylight saving as of the beginning of October. We are going to look at in which case we have natural light to provide for additional lighting. And I do note that when sports fields are lit up for sport, that there is a window of opportunity that is still there. But this is the real hit when additional nice things for the community to have, additional time on sports fields can't just be afforded by this council at this point in time.
Councillor Keane, do you wish to speak?
I do. This came about because we were looking at assisting dog walkers in a period through winter where they could actually see where they were walking and make it a safety issue. So that's where this original motion came from. Yes, it was amended and it was changed on the floor of council. But I'd just like to say that it actually just came from the fact that we were approached by residents locally who were trying to walk their dogs after work at 5 o'clock and they can't see in front of them. So I find this a real disappointment from the fact of where this motion came from. I would like to see Forsyth Park have that additional hour. It's the only park in the ones that were recommended that doesn't go till 9 o'clock, and we're not suggesting that. We were just suggesting an hour. To Councillor Berrigan's point, this came in May on the basis that we were in winter. Now we're going into daylight savings. It sort of seems irrelevant, and it's possibly a motion we should look at for next year prior to winter.
Thank you. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to make a change, if I can, to the recommendation. Take out item 3. Given that our apparent financial situation,
Before you speak to it, what you wish to do is an amendment that
yes,
that deletes item
that
3.
deletes item 3.
Okay, I'm going to take it to the mover. Do you wish to take that on?
Is that the full amendment?
That's the form of the amendment, deletion of item 3. I have to say, I was going to ask you to take that
Yeah, no,
on
that's
myself,
fine. I'm
because what
happy
is the
to delete
point
3.
of reallocating $5,000 worth of funds when we were moving into summer?
Yeah.
Is the seconder prepared to take that on? Thank you. So the motion is now 1, 2 and 4. Are there any other speakers? Before I give Councillor Beregi her right of reply, I will just say that I wonder whether this was a problem that was being made for or certainly blown into out of proportion. There were certainly only 4 complaints that the council had received, and the idea of 5,000 plus worth of works and reprioritisation of funds to address 4 people in a population of 72,000 seems to me not a very careful or responsible way to address our public spaces. And certainly, I don't. I think that the commentary from council staff in relation to the existing use of playing fields, particularly at night, is we must pay attention to, because we're at risk of having them overloved to death. And so, for those reasons, I'll be supporting the motion as amended. Councillor Beregi.
Thank you, Mayor. I too take your points on board, especially in regards to grounds being overused. But I would also add that walking your dog in a park at 8 o'clock in winter and letting them off the lead really isn't the optimal use of the park, from a perspective that native animals are out there and dogs should not be on leads, off lead in the dark when you can't find them and you can't get them, and there are native animals around in the bush. And I would like to see a more, if we are going to pursue this, and first would be a report on any environmental impacts, and also put that out to community consultation as well before any decision is made. But I'm happy with the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the item. All those in favour? And those against? And that is carried. That brings us to item 10.3. Sorry, I'm calling you to order, Councillor Holding. I'd ask you to withdraw and apologise. Thank you. Councillor nomination to consultative panel. Is there a mover? Councillor Welsh. Is there a seconder? Well, we've got a general motion, and we'll call for a nomination, seconded by Councillor Beregi. It calls for us to nominate a councillor representative on this consultative panel. Are there any councillors who are interested in participating? Councillor Santa, you wish to nominate?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Does the mover and seconder take on Councillor Santa? Are there any others who wish to be an alternate? No? Is there any discussion? Councillor, well, and I'll ask the mover to speak to it, and then I'll come to you, Councillor King, if you wish to speak to it, or reserve your right of reply.
I'll reserve my right of reply.
Okay, Councillor King.
I just have a question through you, is who is currently on? I heard you said earlier you had a declaration of interest, so I'm assuming that Councillor Welsh was the former member, is that correct?
No, this is, if you read the report,
I did.
Councillor Welsh is Council's representative on the Sydney Coastal Council group. She happens to be the chair of that group. This is a separate thing. They're developing a coastal management plan, and this is a consultative panel in relation to the development of the coastal management plan, and it's calling for generally for councillors, and it doesn't preclude our existing rep from representative from having nominated, but another councillor has, and that's been accepted by the mover and
And this
seconder.
is a new panel?
It's a new panel for a particular project.
Yep. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? I'll put the item. All those in favour? Those against, and that's carried unanimously. That brings us to the notices of motion. The first is 11.1, Light Up for Meatos. Councillor Keane.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council has previously supported lighting up the chamber for Mito. The Mito Foundation established in 2009. It's a very successful foundation supporting people with mitochondrial disease. Luna Park is also lighting up their Ferris wheel. I urge councillors tonight to
Just
support.
before you speak to it, if
Yep.
you move it and I'll have a seconder.
Oh,
You formally move it. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Carr.
thank you. Anyway, you've read the paper, you've read the documentation. I highly encourage you all to support lighting up the chamber. We do it for other charities, and I really do encourage you to support the Mitochondrial Foundation in September. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Berricky.
Thanks, Mayor. As you know, we have done this for numerous years and I'm more than happy to support it again.
Any other speakers? I'll put the item. All those in favour? Those against, and that's carried unanimously. As for item 11.2, it is OTIOS. I'm going to rule it out of order because there is an existing resolution of council that covers both of the items and is already being acted on.
Can't speak to it.
No, I've just ruled it out of order. Thank you. And Councillor Hoy, your light is on.
I would like to move an urgent motion. That's
If you could speak briefly to what the urgency is and explain the general nature of the motion.
yes. 2 weekends ago, we saw a bunch of neo-Nazis on the street calling for expressing anti-immigration sentiment. This is the first opportunity for the council following that public display of racism to take a position that is potentially contrary to that and demonstrate that we are welcoming of immigrants and of people seeking asylum. And so the motion is calling for the council to join the mayoral and councillor task force supporting people seeking asylum.
I will rule that to be a matter of urgency. So I put it to the chamber that the item is a matter of urgency. All those in favour? And that is carried. Councillor Hoy, if you would move your motion.
Yes. I think we're all appalled and disturbed to see neo-Nazis marching on our streets in Sydney and around the country less than 2 weeks ago. Theirs is a politics of hatred and division, and it needs to be challenged at every stage. The nationalist, white supremacist, neo-Nazi movement seeks to inflame racial grievance and make an enemy of migrants to this country, stoking anti-immigration rhetoric. It's our responsibility to take a position of humanity that recognises the intrinsic worth of every person and to uphold our international and moral obligations to welcome and resettle refugees and displaced people into this country. Council support refugee resettlement, provide services for newly arrived migrants, fill the gaps in the provision of essential human services where there are no other providers, and advocate for equitable access to infrastructure and services. 4 out of 5 people seeking protection in our communities are not eligible for federal funded support and rely on support from local government and charities to keep food on the table. This placed huge burdens on local government and service providers. Families are facing poverty and trust in government systems is eroded.
If I may stop you there, we just need a seconder for the
Oh, okay.
motion, seconded by Councillor Berricky, and continue.
I will. Financial assistance delivered through the federally funded Status Resolution Support Services program has been cut by 93% from 300 million into 2015-16 to 20 million in 25-26. And the number of people assisted has dropped to only 1,057 in 2024. The New South Wales government has ceased support in expectation the federal government would step in. Lengthy delays in visa processing have made the situation much worse. The lack of assistance, coupled with extended waiting times for decisions, have led to people waiting for over 12 years without access to basic healthcare, safe accommodation, and the opportunity to work or study. The Australian federal government has responsibility for providing people seeking refugee protection with a clear pathway to resolve their immigration status and adequate support mechanisms while they navigate the asylum process. there are still 8,000 people waiting for their immigration status to be resolved. These individuals, part of the legacy caseload, arrived in Australia between August 2012 and December 2013 and were subjected to a refugee determination process that has been widely criticised for its lack of procedural fairness. The fast-track process limited applicants' rights to a comprehensive review without the opportunity for interviews or the presentation of new evidence, despite changed country conditions. Many have lived in Australia for over a decade on temporary visas, contributing to their communities, yet remain in a state of uncertainty, unable to reunite with family or access stable employment. Addressing their situation by providing a clear pathway to permanency would rectify past injustices and allow these individuals to fully participate in Australian society. Since 2018, the Mayoral and Councillor Task Force supporting people seeking asylum has been advocating for people seeking asylum. The task force is made up of a growing membership of over 40 councils nationwide, including 10 councils in New South Wales, who recognise that this issue is of significance to local government. The Back Your Neighbour campaign, run by the task force, advocates for equitable treatment and support for asylum seekers, fosters inclusive communities, seeks to deliver to all individuals the right and ability to access the services and opportunities necessary for full participation in the community. This is in keeping with Council's own values of delivering an inclusive community where all individuals, regardless of their background, identity, or circumstances, are welcomed, respected, and valued. It promotes equality of opportunity and ensures that everyone has access to the resources, services, and support they need to thrive. The task force has a range of membership options with support and membership demonstrating council support for the task force and the Back Your Neighbour campaign. And this membership comes with no cost to the council, and I encourage everyone to support the motion.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Keane.
I would like to ask a question of Councillor Hoy through you. Who are the 10 councils in New South Wales?
Lane Cove, Randwick.
Newcastle.
Yeah, on the website. Yeah.
It's okay, I've just asked the questions.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, all right. I just wanted a matter of urgency to find still in support of this.
No.
No.
Councillor Beregi.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Hoy. Happy to support your motion and endorse what, I'm not going to repeat what you said. I would just like to add that over the last couple of years at citizenship ceremonies, we have been really privileged to have many people who have lived in our community waiting for citizenship for years who came from, sorry? As refugees waiting for citizenship. And from the moment they arrive, they are contributors to our community. And it's the amazing work that they do as part of our community, as a volunteer, in not only just bringing their skills to our community, but helping others. And they immediately do this from day one. And the stories and that they have told at our citizenship ceremonies have been absolutely inspiring, not just for us hearing it, but for the new members of our community that we are welcoming on that day and making them aware of even more resources that are available to people like this through the council. So I think it's a very important motion, especially at this very difficult time in the world, and more than happy to support it.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Before we put the motion, I'm going to speak very briefly in support. In the mid-1990s, under Independent Mayor Ganya McCaffrey, North Sydney Council resolved to become a sanctuary city, and we remain so today. Last year, Council resolved to join the Welcoming Cities Network, and we're a member of that network, which is akin to the same values that Back Your Neighbour campaign has and the task force. Since becoming mayor, I have sat in on that mayoral task force meetings because they've run out of online out of Victoria. And in February of this year, most importantly, as you said, we adopted a social inclusion policy. My view is that, and has always been, that social inclusion policy is really an overarching policy that governs everything the council is doing and the other 7 informing strategies. As Councillor Beregi suggested, now more than ever, we need to reinforce council's commitment to being a welcoming, inclusive community, a place where everyone belongs. We are in very polarised times, and we need to continually protect and reinforce how precious this fragile democracy is. And I think that we should be proud that we're serving on a council that has always been one to stand up for refugees, and that we continue to do so. So I'm very happy to support your motion. Do you wish to have a right of reply? But as everyone's in thundering agreement, I'll put the motion. all those in favour? And that is carried unanimously, which brings us to the close of the meeting. Thank you all for your participation.